How you doing, guys? This is Blaze of Cyan. Today we're going to be talking about Jeff Bezos, Everything Store. I also read Amazon Unbound, which was the second book in kind of this series from Brad Stone. The Everything Store being Amazon from the inception of the business up until, I believe, 2013, and then Amazon Bound from 2013 up to, a few years ago, I think kind of the beginning of COVID, maybe up to 2021. And so I wanted to go over some notes with you guys. I know I haven't been posting that much recently, but I mean, I'll tell you this, I have not been slacking on the reading. I have so many books that I've read that I want to share with you guys. I'll just give you guys kind of a sneak peek of what those will be. I've read, let's look here. ITT, the company, telecommunications company, and they were very big in what was it, 60s, 70s. Henry Janine was the CEO, very famous manager. And then we got The Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Read that. Another great one, and I will definitely do this one next, Big Debt Crises, Ray Dalio. I got another one, Rupert Murdoch by Jerome Tusil. Obviously, Everything Store on Amazon Unbound. I'm reading a book on the DuPonts right now, Alfred DuPont specifically. This is a really rare book, and it was actually one that was gifted by a member of the DuPont family. That was a really cool find. But anyways, let's get into the Everything Store. Some of the main takeaways, what I learned from it. So yeah, and of course you can order the book on Amazon like I did. I find that hilarious. Ordering a book about Amazon on Amazon, and Amazon was originally founded to be an online bookstore. I don't know, I find that funny. Anyways, let's get into it. In chapter 1, they talk about D.E. Shaw. So before Bezos started Amazon, Bezos wasn't like a Zuckerberg or a Bill Gates, right? Like, he didn't drop out of university to start this startup. He went to Princeton. I believe he studied physics and computer science, if I'm not mistaken. And after going to Princeton, he went and worked on Wall Street. And he worked specifically for a man named David E. Shaw, who I've looked into quite a bit. I've listened to him speak. He's more of a, you would think of him more as an academic than as a financier when you listen to him talk. And he actually went, back into doing research full time versus, putting all his time into being a hedge fund manager. But David Shaw started this hedge fund, and it was started, basically the whole, thesis behind it was he'd be exploiting price disparities between the same stock in different markets. So, a bit of an arbitrage play there. And then at the firm, all ideas had to pass scientific scrutiny and statistical tests to prove their validity. And they outlined kind of Bezos's experience there. He actually met his wife there, or former wife, Mackenzie Scott. She started working at D.E. Shaw. She was a few years younger than him. And, so that kind of experience, I think, is valuable for Bezos. And working at a firm there with a founder who, had a totally different mentality than the rest of these hedge fund managers, didn't hire a bunch of financiers to come into the firm. It was a lot of physicists and computer scientists and all that sort of stuff. So I found that fascinating, that Bezos went to Wall Street, and then while he's at D.E. Shaw, one day he's looking at some statistics, and sees that the internet is growing at, I believe, what was it, like 2,600 times was the growth rate of the internet. And so Bezos saw those stats, said, you know what, there's an unprecedented opportunity here. I have to jump on this. So he left D.E. Shaw and moved to Seattle to start Amazon. And so let's see, getting into the next bit here. So this is kind of getting into Bezos' mentality of starting Amazon, hiring talent. He did not want to hire people who wanted a work-life balance. Bezos had a big vision for Amazon. He wanted to build the next Sears, made that kind of a declaration. And then, Amazon very quickly got some traction, got their initial customers, and were growing rapidly. They were already sending books internationally to, I believe, almost all 50 states in America within a couple months. And then Amazon had their IPO. It was a $54 million IPO. And so, kind of getting into this, these are kind of some of the different offerings that Amazon engaged in. In May 1998, they had a $326 million junk bond offering. And then in February 1999, a $1.25 billion convertible debt offering. Bezos failed with trying to compete with eBay on online bidding. And just think about today, like the difference between Amazon and eBay. I mean, night and day. I don't think I've ever purchased anything on eBay, right? And I'm young. I didn't really grow up in the early 2000s when eBay was really popping off, or the late 90s as well. But I don't know anyone who talks about eBay. I don't even hear their name anymore. So it just shows how the tables turned over time, and who had the better strategy ultimately. Bezos, this was the vision for Amazon, which was actually conceived at D.E. Shaw, and it's the name of the book, The Everything Store. He wanted Amazon to obtain every product ever manufactured and store it in a distribution center. Right? That is the big vision. That's the big idea, right? That's Bezos being a visionary. And it's the exact reason why Amazon has grown into the behemoth that it is today. Right? You have to have audacious, ridiculous goals. And so when you're thinking about starting your own business, I guess, and what I've thought about recently, because I have a little small business that I do on top of going to school. I am back in school, and so the reason why I've kind of shifted my mindset on all of this, on school, on business, is that I know a lot of people who started small businesses like myself, right? Making money here and there, but ultimately, for me, like a little marketing business on the side, that's not gonna be the billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar, in Bezos's case, trillion-dollar opportunity, right? That's a small business. And what I've realized is business is hard no matter what, small or big. So if you're gonna go for it, why not go for the big business? All right, just my thoughts. Okay, let's see. All right, so in chapter 4, they talk about how every tech company wants to become a platform company, right? And I've kind of used this own term that I never really heard anywhere, but I just started using it myself. And I call it, piggyback company, right? Every company is, built on top of something, right? But if you're the company that everyone is built on top of, that's what the platform company means to me, right? That's the way I think about it. There's some companies where the survival of other businesses is highly dependent on that business. Google, for example, with their advertising business. I have worked with law firms for the marketing business. If they want to get business, they have to use Google. It's an entirely dependent deal. Like they are not independent entities. They rely heavily on a company like Google to be able to advertise on. That is the platform company. That's the platform company. That's what Amazon became to all these people who started their businesses selling products on Amazon, FBA, right? Like that's the platform. Creating the ecosystem for all businesses become reliant on you, right? And then on top of that, you have the consumer business as well, in Amazon's case. In Google, it's a bit different, right? Like a lot of us aren't actively paying Google for things, just being a regular everyday consumer. And that's why Google is, arguably the greatest business model ever, because the front face of the business is free, right? The main business, the search business, is free for the everyday consumer, right? And it's convenient for us and we get what we're looking for. And it's cemented in our minds, right? Once you become a verb, right? Like instead of, I'm going to search this, you say, I'm going to Google it. You're embedded in the minds of the consumer, the everyday person. Everyone knows about Google. Everyone uses Google every day. I don't think I could find one person my age who doesn't use Google. So that's the importance of becoming the platform company, the company that other people build off of. And obviously, these companies are, piggybacking off of businesses that provide, the infrastructure for all this, the data center build outs, especially with AI, right? There's no software without the hardware. And so everything's built on top of each other. But if you can be in the position where maybe you're not fully integrated, like building the hardware as well, but if you can be one position away from, having the entire stack, right? Then everyone's going to be piggybacking off of you. I think that's just such a powerful concept, and that's why I went really into it there. And then a repeated strategy with Amazon is that Bezos was willing to lose money temporarily because he knew that over time it would gain customer loyalty. So just one example, Bezos lost money selling Harry Potter books to gain customer loyalty. So he was willing to go into the red, lose, millions of dollars selling Harry Potter books on Amazon cheaper than the competitors, lose money on that because he knew that those customers would come back to Amazon, be appreciative that Amazon was willing to offer those lower prices. Powerful, very powerful. And for so long, for much of, at least a decade and a half, Amazon didn't even break a profit, right? Or maybe not a decade and a half, but for a long time, they didn't even break a profit. And then here, kind of talking about what were some important metrics that Amazon looked at. Average talk time and contacts per order are two important customer service metrics that they looked at. And then kind of getting into here, they had this guy who's kind of adversarial to the company. He was an investment banker. put out a report saying that Amazon is going to run out of cash. And, Amazon very much refuted this sentiment. And this goes back to, Amazon being unprofitable for so long and Bezos just being hell-bent on, the customer, providing lower prices. And he knew over time, he just felt that Amazon would have an edge. And so, obviously this made a lot of people nervous, right? For years, the company didn't make a profit. And the idea that they would run out of cash was scary for them, for their investors. And then next, Bezos was always focused on how to charge customers less. He was able to motivate employees without getting too attached personally. I've heard the same thing about Zuckerberg. He just drops people like flies. And Zuckerberg is brutal, is what I've heard. I heard Jason Calacanis speaking about that. Obviously they have a great podcast, the All In podcast, if you haven't listened to it. But yeah, Bezos was the same way. He could drop people, and it wouldn't upset him. And you have to be that way. You have to be brutal in your expectations of people, and you can't get too emotionally attached. Let's see. Bezos held Amazon's first meeting in Barnes and Noble's coffee shops. I found that was hilarious because he just totally destroyed them in the online book business. There was an emphasis on decentralization and independent decision making in Amazon. Bezos did not meet with employees individually. He did not want to be a retail company, but a tech company, right? This is why they got into AWS, why the business is primarily focused on tech rather than retail. Bezos saw that as a much bigger opportunity rather than, trying to be a competitor of Walmart. Now Bezos is a competitor of Microsoft, Oracle, these tech businesses, along with retail. And next, Bezos had temper tantrums, like some other great CEOs that I've studied, that we've talked about. Steve Jobs, known for that. Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, all these guys had temper tantrums. And you know what? It's understandable when you're growing something so big and all the stress that comes with that and all the problems you encounter. I can't imagine if I'm in that situation being I would be not prone to that. I think I would probably engage in that as well. Amazon tried to get into the search business and it failed. Amazon tried so many things that failed, and that's just one example, right? Like Amazon is not a perfect company, but Bezos emphasizes a lot that they take a bunch of bets. The little bets will not work, right? Like some bets will not work and they'll lead to losses, but then there will be other bets that lead to massive gains, and if those gains offset the losses, then they've done a good job. Bezos kind of faced some problems with people leaving Amazon, going to competitors. So Bezos' top execs left Amazon once the search business was failing and went to work at Google, which upset Bezos. Amazon wanted to control the entire customer experience, the software and the hardware. Amazon negotiated aggressively with book publishers. They priced all ebooks at $9.99, and they didn't tell book publishers ahead of time. This got them into a lot of problems with the book publishers. They backlashed, and actually the publishers tried to come together and create a coalition to oppose Amazon and to stop selling their books on Amazon, the ebooks, and that actually caused a lot of problems legally for the publishers, and it was shown that they were, kind of conspiring against Amazon. So that was interesting. Amazon had operating leverage, which meant that they were getting more out of their assets. Bezos wanted to sell clothes and food so they could rival Walmart, right? So Bezos is really good at saying one thing, but another thing could also be true. Like earlier we talked about how he did not want to be a retail company but a tech company. He wanted to be both. Let's be very clear on that. Like Bezos wanted both, and he's achieved both. I think it's very disingenuous for Bezos to say that he didn't want to be a retail company. He literally has his workers read Sam Walton's book. I was gonna call it "Make America Great Again." It's called "Made in America." Oh, that's hilarious. It's not that. That's not what it's called. It's called "Made in America," and he would hand that out to employees at Amazon to read. Book by Sam Walton, obviously. So, Bezos obviously wanted to compete with them, and he has done a good job. He's done a good job with that. Bezos had the good to great philosophy. I've read it as well. I have it in my bookcase. It's by Jim Collins, Good to Great. And it kind of meant that Amazon would only acquire other firms once they fully mastered their own virtuous cycle, right? And they figured out their virtuous cycle. And then Bezos created Endless.com to sell shoes and handbags and compete directly with Zappos. And then Bezos obviously ended up acquiring Zappos. Amazon had a group inside the company called Competitive Intelligence. All right. And he doesn't focus on competition, apparently. Bezos is very, very good at, kind of making himself seem like a very virtuous person. But we all know you have to be cutthroat and brutal to achieve what Bezos has achieved. You have to be brutal. There's no other way around it. So that was a little rundown on the book. There's more to it than that, but I thought that was just some main talking points I found interesting. I will discuss Amazon Unbound at one point as well, because I liked that book as well. And then I have so many books to go over with you guys. Like I said, man, I've just been grinding so hard, and sometimes it's hard to find the time to do these things and to let it slip. But I'll keep putting them out for you, let you know the lessons I learn along the way, what I'm doing, in terms of business, because I mean, a lot of people would look at someone like myself, who kind of, comes up with all these ideas all the time. I always have so many ideas for businesses, right? I have this little business on the side as well that I do, which is pretty passive, how I've, created it and organized all that. But, and they would think that I'm someone that's lost, right? Like, oh, he's, all over the place, trying this thing and that thing. But I'm not lost, because I know exactly what I want, which is to be my own boss, build a great entity, build a great business. And so I actually think that I am much more, in tune with what I want with my life than other people are, right? A lot of people are just focused on, oh, I'm going to go down this career path or that career path. I'm going to work for this person, climb this ladder, and become a VP somewhere, whatever, right? Doing things that are kind of mainstream, what other people tell them is best. So I think that I'm actually not lost. I know exactly what I want. But what I'm going after is much different, and it's much more complex. And, I'm just constantly learning and growing every day. That's all we can do, guys. Right now I'm studying physics and finance, right? Both. Learning, advanced calculus and all this stuff so that, I can create this well-rounded being, and have these different perspectives and traits that I see other entrepreneurs have, like Bezos, studied computer science and physics. A lot of these guys were strong mathematicians. Bill Gates, Bezos, Kenneth Griffin at Citadel, Bezos' boss when he was younger, D.E. Shaw. So I'm getting some context clues as I'm learning from these guys about what they know and what they know well. Math is one of those things. Physics. Elon, right? Studied physics. So, guys, don't be discouraged. If you're certain that you have to be your own boss and it's kind of an irrational drive that you have, and it is irrational. I've heard Mark Andreessen talk about it. How, it's irrational to try and go start your own business when you could, I go to a great school. I could just go get a good job, climb a ladder, become a VP, make $500,000 a year. Cool, right? $500,000 a year at some point, and then just be satisfied with that. Or I could do something great and create something myself. And the most important thing for me is to have complete autonomy and freedom to be able to say whatever I want, whenever I want. That's something I will not concede. Right? Don't get it twisted. If you're a CEO at a major corporation, right? Not the owner, but the CEO, you got hired to be put in that position. You are not free. You cannot say whatever you want, right? You have to say what the company wants you to say. Follow the agenda. So that's more important to me than the money. Having that autonomy, that freedom. I think a lot of you watching this feel the same way. Anyways, guys, I'll stop rambling. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll come back with you with the new one very shortly. Talk to you soon. Bye.